Okay, so this is not the cemetery I actually came for. You can't turn your phone while live. This is not the cemetery Alright, this is not actually the cemetery I came for. I came for the Abernathy Family Cemetery, and then I was going for Plan B because I could not find the Abernathy/Lacey Chapel Cemetery. And I'm going down the road, and then I spotted this, and according to my notes, this is the Sadler Cemetery, and it used to be where, where's my notes? Former site of Hopewell Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and there's 6 down this road. So I have not been here. I haven't got a clue. So let's go see what we can see. Oh, back in my truck and down the bumpy road. Y'all are gonna see this when I see it, because I just don't have a clue. I mean, there is a cemetery down here. It's just fairly easy to spot. This obviously would be on, which usually when you have a no dumping sign, that means, hey, please dump here. Oh, watch out for the mud. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got here. Some monuments. I see some Woodsman of the World stones. There's a nice obelisk over there. There's another Woodsman of the World. So let's see what we got here. And apparently this cemetery is still active. Fairly recent stone, Mr. Williams, 1941, and then Lucy, wife of J.W. Williams, on an older stone. She passed away in 1921, and I'm just going to presume that that little rock right there, which may have been the base of a monument at some point, would be her husband. Fairly recent one. Here's a nice stylized dove for little Miss Johnson, who didn't quite live for a whole year. This is out in Bessemer off of, I don't even know what that road was. Down near, there's a big Greenwood Business Park. Goodwin, Mr. and Miss Goodwin, with clasped hands and fairly recent flowers. Here is probably a child. Yep. Infant Goodwin. So the Goodwin family obviously comes here still. Mr. and Miss Griffin, also with the clasped hands. When I get around to doing the Cemetery Saturday on this cemetery, I will obviously have more information on it, because like I said, I just kind of bumped up on this on the side of the road. Edward Patton, a little less than 2 years old, hence the dove. And Henry Patton, also a little less than 2 years old. Woodsman of the World monument, standard issue with the 4 logs and then the upright. Mr. Halsey. And these are all fairly much the same, and a cicada. Oh, Elizabeth, wife of C.H. Cruz. Can I zoom into that? Nope. I have to actually climb up on here. 1946. Hello from Gardendale. Hello from somewhere out in the woods in Bessemer. Complete. But it's not like totally, because there's like a business over here. It's not nearly out in the woods as the one that I was going for, which was behind a wonderful little old country church. Now see, here's a 1980, fairly recent grave. And here is one of the lamb, indicating a child. Edmund, 1907 to 1908. See, I see one Fisher up here that looks interesting. So let's see what we got going on here. The dove usually means that it is a child. Doves and lambs decorate children's graves and infants, and it indicates, you've gone to heaven straight on the wings of a dove, and hence this one, gone to be an angel. Just one date, so probably was a stillborn. Lambs, little innocent lambs. This one's kind of damaged. Now this Fisher one, doves don't always mean children. It just means that you have gone to heaven on the wings of a dove. 1871 to 1919. Weep not for me, my children dear, I am not dead, but sleeping here. When Jesus doth in triumph call, hope in heaven to meet you all. Mama. Oh, how poignant. Another lamb indicating a child, just 2 years old. And this one is badly damaged. Seals, 2007 and 2008. They died not too terribly far apart. I'm willing to bet. Wed 1947. So yeah, they were married for a long time. A World War II veteran. Another fairly standard under 2-year-old lamb. This one's got some interesting moss on it, in the stylized. Mr. Jenkins, James Jenkins, 1873 to 1907. It has some nice carving on it. Myrtle, wife of Coy Lindsay. And then, of course, here's Mr. Lindsay with a much less ornate stone. He passed away in 1946. She passed away in the 20s. So you can see here a very big difference in grave marking. Now, this is where I was coming. Okay, so this is a cenotaph. This indicates that the person that is on the stone, Sergeant Wilfred Niles, who died in World War I, June 18th, 1918, he is buried somewhere in France. So his grave is not actually here. He is lost in the trenches of World War I or buried, well, since it says somewhere in France, he is probably just lost in the trenches. This is the Sadler's Cemetery, Kim. It is not the cemetery I was actually going for today, but it's the one I found. And then Wilfred Niles, Alabama, 42nd Division Infantry, also 1918. Oh, same person. So it's possible that his body was found and then moved here, or he might not actually be here. I don't know. Here's a Woodsman of the World stone that has been knocked over fairly recently, judging from the fact that the discoloration of the stone is not changed. It's still very light. Oh, here's a nice, the dove breaking through the gates of heaven. Open Bible at the top. Fanny, wife of S.A. Rhodes. And then W. Batson has the exact same carving on her, I presume it's her, because it's just DW, and it doesn't say who DW is. Mother and father set of stones for the Bradleys. Over here is a variety of stone carvings. We've got George, son of J.W. Gilbert, and he has the lily on top. Then here has a cross on top. And then here, if I don't stumble over this piece of bush, I believe that would probably be an orchid. So right next to each other you have three completely different floral or cross carvings. Now here is a fenced in one, and looking around it seems to be the only fenced in one. Alright, now here's a child's stone that has a completely different imagery because it has the stump indicating that their life was cut short, with the lamb down at the bottom, unlike the cemetery that we had the other day that showed a dove, a dead dove at the bottom. Let's see, 1906 to 1917. Quite possibly died in the flu pandemic that was wiping out the world at that point. Here is the chains, which I don't have my book with me, so I'm not sure off the top of my head what the chains mean, and I'm totally sorry about that. 1882 to 1906. And I've always kind of liked these kind of, looks like a church steeple type stones. Let's see if I can not break anything getting out of that. Now here's a dove with a completely different set of gates over here. Not like farm gates, but more like gates of heaven. And this one is a 1914. Rosa, wife of R.L., with stylized flowers at the top and more of a dome as opposed to a very hard cross top. Now here's a recent stone for an old grave, 1923. Now here's a stone that indicates bad weathering. It may have been just a bad piece of stone. Actually, I think this is concrete. This is definitely cast out of concrete. 1902. Francis Goodwin. Then here's another concrete stone, 1907, and then there's several over there. And several marked but unmarked graves that are just little concrete blocks marking them. Roy. I think I'm getting back into an older section of the cemetery. Victoria Roy, with the crown and cross at the top. Let's see if there's anything on the other side. Nope. Well, there is some carving that's another crown and cross and Savior lead me. This is apparently the Roy section of the cemetery because all the graves here seem to be the Roys. Here's another somewhat more ornate one that has several names on it, indicating that there are graves right around here. And then there is a Confederate soldier over there. Also Roy. 1914. 1901. No name on this side. Wonderful scrollwork carving though. And some stylized leaves for Maggie. 1922. Okay, so, and Confederate soldier, Private Isaac Roy, Company K, 30th Alabama Infantry, died in 1898. And this is the fairly standard issue Confederate soldier stone. Let's see what this interesting tower is over here. I believe I already said, but I'm just making sure, Kim, this is the Sadler Cemetery. Now here is a different stone for a Confederate soldier, still carved with the Southern Cross at the top. Sadler grave. Now I would presume it would be the Sadlers, like the Sadler house, because I am in Bessemer. So it's entirely possible that the Sadlers are in unmarked graves. I don't know. Like I said, I just stumbled up on this cemetery, so I'm not 100% sure what the connection might be. Father and Mother Timmons. There is a grave for Columbia L., wife of W.R. Krim. That would be Mrs. Krim. Memory of Richard Isaac. Is my sound better? I hope my sound is better. I accidentally had my finger over the microphone. Somebody let me know if the sound is working. I don't know. Here's the stone's got a bunch of flags on it. It's a child. Oh, no, not a child. 1888 to 1937. I would presume by the U.S. flags that he was a soldier. Oh, okay. I'm presuming with the thumbs up that the sound is working. I just, in walking around, had put my hand over the microphone. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Okay, so here's, looks to be the back of the cemetery. Clifton, Bradbury, with some Halloween decorations on it. Martha Steele. These are Steele graves. 1941, 1932, and 1950. And then a whole collection over here. Also, Hopkins. These are all Hopkins. And Annie Steele Hopkins. So I would presume that this family was married into by that one. Morrow. Fairly recent stone for older graves. And these graves are actually covered in stones and outlined in brick. Here's a small tower with the, and there's a bug on me. Stylized flowers, 1934 to 1919. Hope, as in hoping to wake up in the arms of Jesus, I would presume. Oh, Sadler. Found Sadlers. Now here's where a couple of graves, they're marked, but they have fallen in. So I have to be careful. Sadler, Alice Bell, wife of J.A. Sadler. and I will have to do my digging to figure out whether or not that is the gentleman that built the Sadler house and what the relation is, although Alice Bell sounds awful familiar, although the Sadler house is older than that. I just stepped in an ant bed. Sadler graves there. Now, I'm kind of headed towards this old one in the back. Let's see. Burgess, John Wesley Shepherd, Alabama Private Company H. I'm going to take a shot that that's probably, yeah, it kind of says World War where the stone is sunk, so I'm going to presume that's World War I. Let's see, H.B., son of J.A. Garwood, 1915 to 1917, so 2 years old, and it does not have the lamb on top. What's this over here? H.R. Cox died in the 20s, 1840 and 1856 to the 20s. So that is pretty much a walkthrough of the Sadler Cemetery. I actually did finally find the Sadler graves, but I'm not sure which connection to the Sadler house it may be. So we will dig and find out, and I will let y'all know. Thank you very much.